I don't know anything about this YouTuber who
Nor
did
do
this
I.
video. So if he's in error, we'll correct him.
Yes.
So let's go ahead and take a look at this. This is about the
Okay.
First Amendment. We're working our way through the amendments.
Nice.
He's going to explain the First Amendment.
Let's see if he
And
does
we
it
will
properly.
either say yay or nay to it.
Correct.
To his explanation.
Right.
Hey guys, welcome to Hip Hughes History. We're continuing with the Constitution for Dummies series, taking a look at the First Amendment of the Bill of Rights because we have run out of articles. So let's take a look at the original language, a few ways that you can remember them, and some historical context of that language throughout American history in like 5 minutes. So students, lifelong learners, cray-cray on the internet, start your engines. That's the engines of learning. Here we go, giddy-up. So even before we approach the Bill of Rights and start looking at language, I want to talk about the idea of selective incorporation. It's really important to understand, guys, that the Bill of Rights was written for the federal government, federal law, federal action. The states, in a sense, have their own state constitutions. So it's not going to be until after the 14th Amendment, and there's language in the 14th Amendment, you can click right there and watch my 14th Amendment video, that basically says that the states have to succumb to the Bill of Rights concepts of equal protection and due process. And then, throughout the 20th century, the court starts selectively incorporating some of the Bill of Rights to the states.
Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble, and to petition the government for a redress of grievances.
So you can see the language is really clear. There's only 44 words in there, guys. And if we look at the very beginning of the First Amendment, we can see the Establishment Clause. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. And that language becomes quite interpretable. So what the Supreme Court has done is it's begun to apply, starting in the 1920s, the Bill of Rights to state law. And this blossoms in the Establishment Clause in a case, the Everson decision in 1942. Maybe it's 1947. But either way, what the court basically did was really using some letters that Thomas Jefferson had written to a Baptist association, I believe in Massachusetts, like in 1802, 1803, where he was asked a question about why, as president, he wasn't like proclaiming religious days and holidays. And he responded with basically the language where we hear church, a wall between church and state. That was the language in the letter that Jefferson used. So the court used that letter in a sense to rationalize the intention of the Establishment Clause. So while some strict interpretationalists might say an establishment of religion means just that, like in 1830 in Massachusetts, when Massachusetts was like officially a congregationalist, established religious state, to the idea of, can I pass a law saying that we're going to say a prayer, in school? So loose interpretationalists have used the Establishment Clause intention of Jefferson and this wall between church and state to build it up pretty high. So the Free Exercise Clause, guys, basically is freedom of religion. And the court has basically adopted in kind of deciding what the language means of a strict scrutiny test. So if we're going to take away your freedom of religion, your free exercise of religion, we better have a really good reason. Like you belong to the Church of Meth. I don't think that's going to pass the mustard. I think that the strict scrutiny test would include you. You're not allowed to do that. So next is free speech, guys. Congress shall make no law abridging free speech. There's always going to be a balancing act, but there's tons of different areas of study in this, whether you're talking about student free speech or free speech during war, commercial free speech, is flag burning free speech, is obscenity free speech. There's so much interesting stuff to take a look at you certainly probably should do that. But that would be your freedom of speech. We then have, or of the press, abridging the press rights. And of course, this really goes to the idea of prior restraint. Can the federal government stop you from printing something because they deem it to be hazardous or a security risk? And that's going to be a balancing act as well. Take a look at New York Times versus the United States, a famous case dealing with the Pentagon Papers, and the idea of whether we had the right to know of whether the government was lying to us or whether that was going to violate national security. You can look at the WikiLeaks case today, or what Snowden is doing with information from the NSA. Too hot to handle. There's tons in there to do. You also are going to have the right of the people to peacefully assemble. This is right of assembly. This also goes to the idea of right of association. What if you join the Communist Party in the 1950s? Are you going to have the right to assemble? What if you want to get 1,000 friends to go downtown and have a march in front of city halls to free the puppy dogs? Do you need a petition? Lots of cool and interesting stuff looking at that. And then finally, not to abridge the right of petitioning the government for a redress of grievances. Your ability as a citizen to lobby your government, to tell the government through protest or letter writing or raising money or however it might be, to address your grievances, your problems from the government. So there you go, guys. 44 words, you can do that. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of the speech, or of the press, or of the right of the people to peacefully assemble and petition their government for a redress of grievances. Boom, 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 boom. Where attention goes, energy flows.
Okay.
I just enjoyed looking at your face change. So
I'm
what do you got?
less than amused by this man. He got so many things wrong.
Set us straight, oh.
Yes, I would have preferred to have just done this video with us, because all he did was confuse things. First off, I'm going to start at the very end where he talked about the redress of grievances. A redress of grievances is not simply telling the government what you don't like. Redress means remedy. It means a correction of grievances. It's not just, hey, Mr. So-and-so or Mrs. So-and-so, whatever your representative or senator's name is, I don't like that you're doing this. Yeah, of course we have the right to do that. That falls under our free speech also. But it's more than that. A redress of grievances means you are expecting, and you have the right to expect, that your government will remedy those issues. Now, let's go back to the beginning. The Establishment Clause and the Free Exercise Clause. The Establishment Clause, the one thing that he got right there was that the language of separation of church and state, it's nowhere to be found in our Constitution. It is in a private letter from Thomas Jefferson to the Danbury Baptist Association. He's correct about that. It is incorrect to say that that is the only thing that the Establishment Clause means. It absolutely means that our federal government cannot establish an official state religion. Period. That is what it means. The federal government cannot say every American must be born-again Christians. The federal government cannot say every American must be a Muslim. The federal government cannot say every American must be a Jew or a Hindu or a Buddhist or an atheist. Period. That is what the Establishment Clause is all about. The government does not have the right to do that. It is in the hands of every single individual in this country, whether you are a citizen, whether you're here on a visa, whether you are of majority age, meaning 18 and older, whether you are a child. Every individual in this country has the right to determine for themselves what religion they will be, or if they don't want to be any, they don't have to be any. That's what the Establishment Clause is about. The government cannot tell you that you have to be a religion or that you cannot be a religion. The Free Exercise Clause is not freedom of religion. It is the free exercise of religion. So this means it's not just that you are free to think what you want. You are free to exercise your religious beliefs. So for those of us who are born again Christians, the government cannot say to you, well, you can go to church on Sunday, but you can't have a Bible study in your home. They can't do that.
They try to.
Some of them have tried to do that. Sorry about that. Some of them have tried to do that, but they get slapped down by the courts because the free exercise clause makes it plain and clear that you have the freedom to exercise your religion. You can go out and share your faith with people. You have the right to do that in America. You can read the Bible wherever you want to, or if you're, Jewish, Muslim, Hindu, whatever your religion is, you can read your holy book wherever you want to. You have the freedom to do that in America. So he got that wrong. That irritates me. The freedom of the press, when he talks about that it's just, the freedom to print things that maybe, could be a national security issue, but maybe not. That is not the main thrust of the freedom of the press. The freedom of the press means it's not going to be owned and operated by the state. It means that individual companies and entities can decide, you know what, we have a newspaper we'd like to print, or a magazine, or we have a broadcast TV network that we would like to put news on, and the government cannot say, no, you know what, we don't want you saying that about President Obama, or we don't want you saying that about President Trump, so you're not allowed to do that. That's part of freedom of the press. And it has been contentious since the days of the Founding Fathers, because though the Founding Fathers knew it was important to have these entities be free and not controlled by the government, they often hated what the press was saying, and that remains to this day. So he got that wrong, and that irritates me too. One thing that he did get correct is that originally the Bill of Rights were federal only. So these applied to the fact that the federal government could not encroach on these rights. And every state also has their own constitution and their own bills of rights. Later on in the 1800s, when the 14th Amendment was ratified, that did change things, and so the federal Bill of Rights often gets applied to other cases. Something else that he got wrong when he talked about freedom of assembly, how this basically governs if you need a petition to go down to City Hall and protest. No, it doesn't. No, it doesn't. Freedom of assembly certainly is covered under the First Amendment, but whether or not you need a petition to have some sort of protest, that's handled at the state and local levels. So he got that wrong too. Yeah, next time before you pick something like that, you need to consult me, because that dude, he was all over the joint. Something that free speech does mean is that though you may not like the things I say, it may not be popular speech, it is still protected speech. Now, there are limits in that you can't, and this is a very popular example to give. You cannot go into a crowded movie theater and yell fire when in fact you know there's no fire, because that can cause a stampede and injury and loss of life. So you can't do something like that. But I can certainly say, you know what? I think Barack Obama was a terrible president, and I think that Ronald Reagan was a phenomenal president, and I think Donald Trump is doing a really good job. I can say that, and the federal government can't do a thing about it. So you can do that. You can say things that are unpopular, like, I think that, Jesus Christ is the savior of the world. That's unpopular to some people, but I have the right to say that here. So, that freedom of speech covers and encompasses a wide variety of things, and it's important to remember that the answer to speech that you don't like is not to get rid of speech, but to have more speech. The more voices, the better, because you want people being able to say the things that they want to say.
What's up? Hey, thank you so much for watching this video. I would ask you to please subscribe, please like and share, and please go check out Dark Sky Radio, the greatest internet radio station in the world.